This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Steelers Nation, what is going on? This is episode 98 of the Steelers Culture Podcast, where we break down Pittsburgh Steelers football. And this episode is sponsored and partnered by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. The offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers has been a constant issue for years now, and over the course of the weekend, it has been a major talking point amongst everyone because it's still an issue. It is still a major concern regarding this football team when the team has invested a lot of resources into improving said offensive line. 2 veteran guards, 5 draft picks within the last 2 years. A lot of capital thrown into the offensive line.
A lot of interest, a lot of investment. And year by year, I mean, it's a major talking point and not in a good way.
But before we get into that, guys, if you would like, please follow us on social media. All of our social media platforms and our @s and our socials are in the ticker as well as in the description below. Plus, we are now on Spotify. If you guys want to listen to us on audio form, we are now officially on Spotify. Link in the description below. Follow, give it a 5-star rating for the Steelers Culture Podcast there. And huge thank you, huge shout out to the sponsor of today's podcast, BetUS.
Mike Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. I would take advantage. I already have taken advantage. And right here we have BetUS's website and the betting line. Since the topic is about offensive line, hopefully the Steelers don't allow a lot of sacks, but hopefully the Steelers defense can accumulate a lot of sacks between, of course, Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. Right here are their betting lines for the regular season sacks. Alex Highsmith last year had 7 sacks. He also came away with 2 interceptions, so he's a playmaker all over the field. But his over-under is 7.5 sacks. If you guys like the odds, or if you think he'll have under 7.5 sacks, feel free to take any of these odds here. I think they're both very favorable, but the over I would take because Highsmith is vastly underrated and getting better year by year. And, of course, TJ Watt right here, his over-under is 13.5. I think that's very favorable. Seeing what he does when he's fully healthy, when he's playing the full 17 games, I mean, he can average 20 a season. In fact, I think his stats show he is averaging over 20 a season. It's insane. So if you are in high favor of those odds, feel free to go to BetUS and click the link in the description below to sign up today. Take advantage of that 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. I would absolutely take advantage of that. Again, link in the description. You guys get a new sports book this year with the fastest payouts in the industry, fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service every day, live wagering on all major sports, all major games. And you guys, again, can check out the link in the description below. Sign up to BetUS today. Just please gamble responsibly. And when it comes to sacks this season, hopefully the Steelers don't give up a lot because we've seen enough of that.
No. Way more than we like.
We've seen, in fact, just the preseason alone, we've seen enough. It's been concerning seeing that it's been from our starters or our future starters, our long-term starters being Broderick Jones and Joy Fatano specifically. Now
and not to interrupt you, but I get it. It's preseason. Not everything that happens in preseason translates over to regular season. We as Steelers fans are very well known of that.
Sure.
But it's still a worrisome thing because the offensive line year by year is a thing that stands out and not in a good way.
Yeah, and it's mostly because when you look at the past couple games, specifically the Bills game with Broderick Jones, you just see he looked off, he looked bad, he looked worse than he did his rookie year. Like he wasn't that bad at all when he played at right tackle all of his rookie season, and then he puts on a performance like that against Gregory Rousseau and a second stringer playing the first half of the game essentially. Very concerning, and it makes you wonder. Yeah, Broderick Jones is still raw coming out of Georgia, even in his second year. Out of position, by the way. But also puts into perspective, what is the coaching doing with some of these young guys? Because you noticed, ever since Mike Munchak unfortunately left for Denver years back, we haven't had any substantial coach at offensive line coach for a while now. Now, there was some inconsistency. There was a revolving door, guys. And the Steelers finally set on current offensive line coach Pat Meyer since 2022. The only issue with that is there's been minimal growth from the guys that he has been coaching. I mean, look at Dan Moore, for instance. There's a reason the Steelers drafted back-to-back tackles in back-to-back draft classes. Otherwise, there's little improvement from Dan Moore. What we saw from Broderick was a little concerning, and even Troy Fautanu in his first game. So that kind of puts it out there, like, is this really more so a coaching issue? Because I look at it from Mike Munchak, right? I look at the Goon Squad in the prime days of the Steelers offensive line.
Mike Munchak was the founder of the Goon Squad.
Yeah, I mean,
he made that squad.
Yeah, and that was full of like high pedigree type guys. Pouncey was a first rounder. DeCastro was a first rounder. Marcus Gilbert, I believe, was a third rounder. Ramon Foster was undrafted. Alejandro Villanueva was undrafted. He never played tackle before hitting the NFL.
No.
Never.
He was a defensive lineman in Philly.
A former receiver, tight end at Army.
And then Tomlin saw his size. He was very amused by it, and he signed him to a practice squad deal. And then Munchak just seen this guy. He's like, you know what? I'm going to experiment with you. Ended up turning Villanueva into a 2-time Pro Bowler, back-to-back years, by the way.
Yeah.
The guy was a stud left tackle when he was a Steeler.
But he's not the only example, because you look at a guy like Matt Fielder, who was also undrafted, played tackle and guard, and he got the bag for the Chargers. I also look at a guy like Chris Hubbard, who was very similar in versatility and got a similar contract. I think it was with the Browns. He got it was a 5-year deal, and I mean, he didn't play through the entire thing, but he got a bag after leaving Pittsburgh. So it goes to show you, like, a lot of guys that Munchak grew, he really helped them grow into players, and then it eventually paid off for him in the long run in terms of financials and career-wise.
It did.
And then I look at a guy like Pat Meyer. Now, no one's a Mike Munchak, okay? It's damn near impossible to expect or have expectations for another Mike Munchak, or to have an offensive line coach be another Mike Munchak.
Yeah, we'll probably never get a guy
that's
like that
a Hall
again.
of Fame player turned coach. Like, that's never going to happen, right? It's impossible to put those expectations. It's like asking any future quarterback for the Steelers to be like Ben Roethlisberger. Just not going to happen. But what we asked for is to provide some sort of growth for some of the guys you're coaching, and that has not been the case because, again, Dan Moore's an example. Kendrick Green is an awful example. Kevin Dotson, look what happened to him. He was out of position at right guard. At left guard. He got traded to the Rams. He got put back at right guard, and then because of the season he had, the resurgence, he got the bag from Los Angeles. So now you're seeing there's a trend here with the Steelers and their offensive linemen the past couple years. Now, again, the Steelers have invested a lot of draft and salary capital into building this new offensive line, the long-term offensive line. You know? We got Broderick at left tackle in the long run. We have Sayamalu for at least another 2 years, maybe 1 year, depending on the cap calicy and how he plays with his age. Zach Frazier's the future center. Lord knows what the future holds for James Daniels, but at least we know we have him for a season. We got Troy Fautanu at right tackle, ideally, in the future. We got McCormick. We got Spencer Anderson as the backup guards. That's a lot of talent. That's a lot of versatility. That's a lot of potential there, I would say. It's a lot of pedigree.
That's a lot of high-value type of players at their respective positions.
But my thing with that is, yeah, I love the potential. I love the names. I love that they have put a significant emphasis on rebuilding the offensive line and with some dependable names there on paper.
And I should throw this out. With the group, the future group, it will take time.
Yes, because before we get into anything else, that is the one thing that we all have to understand is it will take time. We have to be patient with this offensive line. And I understand we have been patient for a certain amount of time, but now that we officially have a lot of young guys in that group, first and second year guys mostly, yeah, we are going to have to be patient because it might not be till midseason till we get the ideal offensive line, which includes Broderick at left, Fautanu at right, and of course Frazier is going to be the center for the rest of the season, seeing that Nate Herbig is officially on IR and could be out for the season.
Yeah.
It won't be till probably mid-season till we actually see that, the ideal offensive line. That is 3 young starters, 3 new young starters on the line. It's going to take time. So that's one thing that we got to get out the way. That's one thing all of us have to understand. We have to be patient. But
however,
at the same time, the coaching plays a massive effect in hoping that we get to where we want to be and helping these guys reach the level where they can go, reach their potential. Because coaching matters, and I don't know if Pat Meyer has the greatest track record in developing some of these guys.
No, from what I dug up, because I did a little searching, what I dug up He's been in the NFL for quite some time, specifically and mainly as an offensive line coach. But where he was as an offensive line coach with the Chargers and the Panthers, year by year, the offensive line rankings have gotten worse. They've gotten bad. And before he became the Steelers offensive line coach, he was fired by Carolina.
Yeah.
Now, there was some reasoning there was some possible reason that was lack of talent. He didn't exactly have the best caliber type of players to develop on the offensive line.
Well, it was also he was under the Matt Rule administration, so Carolina went a whole new system, a whole new era there, right? So maybe that was the reason why he got fired by Carolina, and then thus he came to the Steelers in 2022. But
then again, we just mentioned what Munchak had done, what he dealt with, the guys that he was working under, and what he did for them in their careers, for their future.
So when you mention lack of talent that Pat Meyer had to deal with the Chargers between, I think it was 2017 and 2019, with Carolina before he came to Pittsburgh, right? And now with Pittsburgh still, because the first 2 years, I would say he didn't have the best offensive lineman. He had Dan Moore, he had Chukwuekorfor at tackle. He had Mason Cole as his center. Not very well. Not good in my opinion. Just putting it out there. But now he has extraordinary talent. He has first round, second round pedigree at his hands.
He has some high paid guards with him now.
So when we say, yeah, he may have had lack of talent in LA and in Carolina, yeah, that's probably the case because their offensive line ranks were awful. I think the highest offensive line rank he had was with Carolina in his first year, and that's it. It was like 18th overall offensive line group.
And it went down to 30 the very next year.
God, that's not good.
No, it's not.
So, yeah, you could say lack of talent, but, and again, I'm not trying to put the expectation that, hey, we got to get another Mike Munchak. It's hard to give him that expectation. But you see a guy like him work with the talent he had, how many undrafted guys he built up into starters, literally, right? They got the bag when they left. And you see what Pat Meyer had to work with. That makes me think, if you can't really work with what you got, how good of a coach are you really?
Exactly.
I've always viewed that with any coach. It doesn't matter if you're an offensive line coach, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, head coach. Whatever you can work with, it really determines you how good of a coach you really are.
Thank you.
And yes, there is a certain limit when it comes to working with a certain number of talent. You know, some talent is just not there, and they are dealt a bad hand as a coach. But as a coach, it is your job to improve said talent.
And based off what Meyer has showcased us thus far in his 2 years as offensive line coach and the type of talent that he has now, the high-value talent that the Steelers have heavily invested in, I don't trust Pat Meyer to get the offensive line where we hope it can be.
And because you say that, that makes me wonder, and we're not trying to put all the blame on Pat Meyer here, and I'm already seeing it that Steelers fans, Steelers Nation has found their new Matt Canada. Steelers Nation has found their new scapegoat, right? Steelers Nation has found their new coach to hate and push out of the city.
Fire Meyer. You can probably expect a sign if this were to continue to happen.
But truthfully, man, I'm going to put some blame on Mike Tomlin here because this past offseason, he made a lot of coaching changes in the offensive group. Got rid of Matt Canada, thankfully. Brought in Arthur Smith. Got rid of Friesman Jackson, our wide receiver coach. Brought in Zach Cassani. Got rid of Mike Sullivan, our quarterback coach. Brought in Tom Arth. Got rid of, I think his name was Glenn Thomas, our offensive assistant coach. And then brought in someone new. So he brought in all these new faces into the offensive group, which is good. Lord knows we needed it. But the one coach he kept was the offensive line coach. And that wasn't okay with me because you have this guy coach the offensive lines that we've had the past number of years, despite lack of talent or not. This is the guy that you had grow an already hurting offensive line. And you continue to add on it this year, bringing in 3 new guys via the draft and still have him coach this offensive line. It's just a little concerning to me that was the case. And now I know it's preseason, but it's still evident that there are some growth issues. I think it comes from coaching, especially like you look at Broderick Jones. I've never seen him that bad. And it makes me wonder, like from year 1 to year 2, what did he improve on? What did he learn? Did he improve on anything? Is he being taught the right mechanics? Why is his chest so exposed in his passing, in his pass protection sets? Why is his hand so light? It makes no sense to me. It doesn't come off as like he's being taught the right things because he was still raw coming out of Georgia. And that makes me wonder, with Troy Fautanu, could that be the same thing? That's a concern, is now that he's going to be the offensive line coach for the remainder of the season. That's not going to change.
No,
it's not like the Steelers are going to.
Yeah, we know that. We know this.
Yes, it's not like the
Steelers fired their one coach last year, and now they're going to wait another 50 years for it to happen.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Meyer's not being fired.
Yeah.
We know this, but it still doesn't stop us from expressing our concerns. That's just what we are. That's what we're going to do.
It's just I haven't seen any growth in anything. I haven't seen any promise from the line yet. Now, the only guy I've seen some promise in terms of the young guys has been Zach Frazier, because he's a dog. He's a bully. He's a damn grappler. He's a wrestler. He's a mean motherfucker.
He's a center. He's a natural center.
He is a pure one sole position offensive lineman.
But everybody else on the offensive line, even dating back to the previous offensive line coaches when Munchak initially left, Sean Serrett, Adrian Clem, before Pat Meyer came about, they even used their talent of offensive linemen and put him out of position.
And I think that doesn't exactly stem from Pat Meyer. I think that stems from Mike Tomlin. I mean,
he's the one that's allowing this. He's the one that's cool with this. He's the one that's allowing his offensive line coaches to do such a thing.
Well, I've also noted, because he endorses it. And I look back at interviews at the end of the season or before the draft or during the draft where people would ask, hey, where are you going to put Broderick? And Mike Tomlin would be like, I don't know where I'm putting Broderick yet. I'm like, what? How do you not know where you're putting Broderick? And that concerned me, knowing that he might go back to right, and here we are. I think that's a Mike Tomlin issue. I understand, and I get that their love affair with versatility is a great thing, but there's just it's just with the offensive line, you got to be able to put these guys where they play best, where they can work with their strengths, where they can literally relax and comfortably play a certain position.
I mean, it's a position, think about it this way, it's a position that they worked up on, that they learned at the college level, and they've remained at that position. Now you're bringing them in and asking them to learn a completely different position at the NFL level.
Yeah.
And how do you expect them to have high value play style if they're learning a different position from what they had to learn or what they did learn at the college level?
Right.
That just makes it more challenging for them. And you wonder why they're not being as high value as you probably hope that they would be, like Kevin Dotson, for a perfect example.
Yeah, I don't understand why the Steelers don't learn from their mistakes. Like, the writing is on the fucking wall. I mean, all you got to do is look around and see who left and how better off they are. Kevin Dotson is the most recent and probably biggest example so far.
Hell, you know what? Fuck it. I'll throw Kendrick Green out there. I will. The guy was not a natural center. The guy was a disaster at center. It didn't work well when we switched him back to guard. But
No.
ever since he was traded to Houston, I mean, looking at some film, he's holding his own better than he did ever as a Steeler.
But that's the example that this all starts and ends with coaching. That starts with Tomlin and that continues with Pat Meyer. They gotta stop being stubborn and irrational and start learning to put these guys in their natural positions. And then they can actually start learning and adapting one sole spot, and we can see what we truly got in these guys. Like, we don't want another repeat of last year or 2 years, 3 years ago. It just seems like we're getting the same trend every year when it comes to this offensive line. Because I know we got to be patient because we got so many young guys. But what I've noticed is every single year we've tried to improve and replace certain pieces, and we run into the same issues. Putting guys out of position, guys aren't ready, guys aren't growing. It just looks bad. It honestly gives me less hope that this offensive line could really improve. So what the reality is now is the Steelers have what they have, and the fact that they have their guys out of position. They put these guys in so many spots on the offensive line. And because of that, they've trusted them to have so many hats that they didn't even look into improving certain offensive line depth, such as right tackle, which would have kept Broderick at left. And now,
Or even the center position with Nate Herbig.
yeah.
If you just got a more natural backup center during free agency period, because remember, we didn't exactly have a center until we selected Zach Frazier.
Yeah, they didn't sign nobody.
They were comfortable with Herbig, Nate Herbig.
Who had 49 career center snaps.
The guy is a
before this
primary
season.
backup guard. He's not a center, but they were comfortable having him as the backup center.
And now they have depth issues at right tackle and center, which is concerning. Bearing any injuries, any further injury to Fatanu, any injury to Zach Frazier, knock on wood. Hopefully they all stay healthy, they're fine, and then they can play all 17 games. But the depth is now very concerning because of where the Steelers are at. And I know you can't predict injuries, but it's just a matter of, it's not even about the injuries. It's just a matter of putting the guys in their roles, in their positions where they can benefit in the long run. And now that is paused and that is on the back burner because now they have to fill other pieces because guys got hurt. It's just one of those things where the Steelers were stubborn and they were just trusting guys to fulfill so many roles and wear so many hats and have so much on their plate and so much weight on their shoulders.
And that's something I'm not cool with. That's something I am not comfortable with at all.
Well,
I feel like that is only delaying where you need to get the offensive line to.
And that's where we go. That's why we come back and say that this is just a constant trend. And there's been many things with the Steelers that's been a constant trend. There's a boatload. Oh, we be here all night. Let me tell you, man. Same shit, different year. Same old Steelers is what we say every year. And believe me, that is my fear for this season. Once again, despite the roster, the excitement that it brings me, my fear is that we will get another repeat, which we have seen the same movie the last 5 years. I don't want that.
Yeah.
But what it's telling me, what it's showing me, is that we're going to get that again. And what we're seeing already with is this offensive line. It's unfortunate, but this is the reality of the situation. So as a Steelers fan, I have settled in reality. I have to unfortunately swallow this large pill, this hard pill to swallow, and I have to settle in with the mentality that, you know what, we just have to be patient. We have to wait. We have to see what happens the first half of the season. It won't probably be till after the bye that we see what we want to see on the offensive line, which we all know what it is. And then that's when we can truly see, hopefully, the long-term vision in the offensive line. We just got to be patient. There's a lot of young guys. Now, because of the injuries, some of those guys are going to be having a lot more on their plate. Some of the guys are going to be out of position even more now. So it's just one of those things where the Steelers mismanaged in that department. And that really starts with coaching. Because if the coaching didn't put a lot of faith in a certain guy or certain guys to do so much, then maybe they wouldn't be in a position like this. But
Here we are.
here we are. So we just got to be patient.
And yes, of course, the players, when they're given a task with whatever position they have to do, and that's for any player, any position in general.
Right.
If they're given a task, they got to go out there and do whatever they can. I understand that, of course. You
Yeah.
want these players to do their damnest at whatever. But at the same time, don't you think it'd be best if you just put them in a natural position that they're used to, that
Yeah.
they're comfortable with, that you get even better results?
Yeah.
Steelers don't seem to do so, and they continue to do this stuff. And as long as it continues, again, it's only going
I
to
think-
delay where we need this offensive line to get.
I think it's been a quiet undermining error for this offensive line for a number of years is the fact that Tomlin and Pat Meyer or whoever's been our offensive line coach put too much faith in a certain guy to fulfill so many spots. When in reality, yeah, that's a great trait to have, but for a starter specifically, it's not an ideal situation because here we are again.
Talking about it. And it's hard for me to trust based off, what we've seen and just the trend that they're on. It's hard for me to trust these guys. It really is.
Yeah, and it gives me less confidence for this coaching staff again.
I love the talent. I love the potential and the value that they could bring to the team. I just don't trust the coaching to get them to where they absolutely should get to.
Yeah.
We'll just have to wait and see. We'll just have to be patient with it.
Yeah, it's just the Steelers once again.
Unfortunately.
It's just once again the Steelers get complacent with their offensive line room, with their offensive line group, not adding extra bodies for situations for injuries and stuff like this, and instead just put more roles on someone's name, and thus projects out of position. Thus, we don't have a backup center if Frazier gets hurt or whatnot. Knock on wood again. But and again, the offensive line coach, Pat Meyer, there has been no good proof that he has grown any talent in the past number of years just based on his resume with the Chargers, with the Panthers, and now with the Steelers. We have seen it for 2 years now. There's just not been much.
It's like Matt Canada all over again. Not as bad, but, I mean...
Or just from the offensive line group. So, but this is the situation the Steelers are in. And this is the group that we have for the remainder of the year. This is the coaching group that they're going to have to work with for the remainder of the season. Or for the entire season, because the season's barely even started yet.
Yeah.
So that's just the reality of the situation. That's what we have to deal with. That's the pill that we have to swallow. And the mentality I'm in now is, you know what? The first half of the season, our offensive line may not look great like it has in the past 2 years, but towards the second half of the season, they have really stepped up. They have looked strong when we have actually put the right bodies on the line in proper positions. The only thing is, this second half of the season isn't like the previous second half of the season. Like this second half of the season is a nightmare. It is a gauntlet. It is a Mortal Kombat gauntlet on max difficulty. Good luck.
Hard difficulty.
Good luck. So that's the predicament the Steelers are in. So they're gonna have to deal with it, and hopefully we see some promise. We just gotta be patient. We might not be able to get what we want until the second half of the season, and then that can grow from years on. But the fact that Pat Myers remained the offensive line coach, I already wasn't feeling good coming into the season. Now I definitely am not. Now seeing his track record with some research and, of course, what we've seen on the offensive line play so far in preseason. I know it's preseason, but it's just not what you want to see. You want to see something decent, and what we've gotten hasn't been decent. It makes me question.
Not even close to it.
It makes
really.
it makes me question the coaching, not just Meyer, but especially Tomlin, because he allows all this. He's the one that kept him after replacing so many other offensive coaches. But let us know how you guys feel down in the comments below, man. How you guys feeling about the offensive line group? How you guys feeling about the coaching and just the development of these guys? Do you have faith in the coaching to develop these guys into players they should? Let us know in the comments, man. But yes, Nate Herbig is on IR. He is projected to miss potentially the entire season. In a contract year, this is brutal.
Yeah, torn rotator cuff. I mean, I feel for Herbig. I really do.
That is brutal, man. Like, yes, he wasn't a natural center, but he was still a very quality backup. And
now they don't have that for pretty much the whole season.
Yes. So who could be the backup center? I don't know. There's no one out there. There is no one out there.
And you can't throw Mason Cole out there anymore. Recent photos have been on social media of Mason Cole, and he's out of football shape.
He's got that.
He's skinny.
He's got that Alan Faneca, Marquise Pouncey diet.
Like, you know how Marquise Pouncey looks? Yeah, like that's Mason Cole now.
And good for him. Good for him. But yes, that's out of the picture. There's no other free agent centers that they could bring in because they've been released on injury settlement, or there's just no one else out there. So they're going to have to just rely on household name or the in-house names, which could include Mason McCormick at center. He never played center, but they've had limited reps with him in minicamp about it. It could be Spencer Anderson. He has very little experience in Maryland playing the position. But if I had to put money on it, who could be the emergency center in case anything happens to Frazier? My money is being on James Daniels because he had center experience. He played center in Iowa before being drafted by the Bears.
Yeah.
Now it's been years, but he has that experience. So if I had to put money on it, yeah, I would think that James Daniels is the emergency center or backup center, essentially. And then if he ever has to play center, either Spencer Anderson, who's been getting a ton of first-team reps, or Mason McCormick will come in at right guard. And I think those are two very solid options.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were to go either of those routes.
And honestly, potential replacements for Daniels.
Now, I do want to throw one name out there. I'm not saying that he will be the backup, but it's somebody that could get a roster spot because he's of this position of need. Ryan McCollum. He has been with the team since 2022.
True.
And he's been with the practice squad primarily. He's been under development. When it comes to the Steelers' need now at backup center, he may fit, right there and then, being the backup center, just filling that position, filling that role, just somebody to have so that they can keep a guy like Spencer Anderson over at guard, where he's been very good in preseason.
Same thing
And he's
with-
pretty much settled at that position.
Same thing with McCormick.
Yeah, and you keep James Daniels right at right guard, where he has been since he's put on a Steelers uniform.
I could see that. I could definitely see McCollum being the backup center and him making a rush spot as that. In fact, I'd probably say that's the most ideal situation. That way, no one is really out of position. Again, we got too much of that. We've seen too much of that. Not trying to do it again. But here the Steelers are in this situation because they failed to acquire better depth or just sole position depth. They just think that, hey, he can play both positions. He should just be the guy to do it. Like, no. That's why you're in this position.
Yeah.
At tackle and center.
Just get a natural guy, even if that is Ryan McCollum, just to fulfill that backup role, or unless they can find a guy via free agency, whoever else is out there.
Maybe they trade for somebody right before the final cuts.
It's something that, they have a tendency of doing before the regular season hits.
Happens all the time. Who that could be, Lord knows. Lord knows. Time will tell. But it's unfortunate for Nate Herbig, man. I feel for him. He's a hard worker. I'd say he's a very, very, very good depth piece, man. I think he's a very solid guard.
If we know anything about them Herbig boys, they're tough football players.
Yeah, they are.
And I do feel for Herbig. And in a contract year, it's brutal.
Yeah, man, because, I hate to say it, this might be the end for him in Pittsburgh. Now, he could still get a contract offer because his brother Nick will remain under contract for another 2 years after this one. So maybe it's not the end of him in Pittsburgh, and I think we would definitely welcome him back as a depth piece, especially if a guy like Daniels leaves and then McCormick is the guy next in line, or Spencer Anderson is the next guy in line, and we're still going to need a depth guy.
Yeah.
Nate Herbig is a very quality guy there. So maybe this isn't, but it sucks for him because, in a situation like this, it's not what you want to see. Preseason injuries suck.
Of course.
It's unfortunate. But, yeah, let us know how you guys feel about that in the comments below. Again, let us know you guys' thoughts and opinions about everything, the development, the coaching, the players in general, and just how the Steelers have, in my opinion, mismanaged the offensive line for years now, but especially it's being a little more apparent because it seems like issues are just reoccurring and constant. So, at the end of the day, we just got to be patient, and we'll see what happens. And again, quick thank you, quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring today's podcast episode. Click the link in the description box below to sign up. Take advantage of that 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits, up to $2,000. Take advantage, man. So, shout out to them. Appreciate them for sponsoring today's podcast episode, and see you in the next one. Here we go, Steelers.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!